The US Freedom Rides were a series of bus rides taken over 7 months between May and December of 1961. These rides were located mainly in the southern states of America, with main center being Jackson, Mississippi. These freedom rides were ridden by people of all backgrounds, with both African Americans and white Americans riding on the freedom rides in order to highlight the oppressive segregation laws by both the federal government and local governments. The freedom rides encountered many issues, with the main one being violence. This included an incident in Birmingham when James Peck was greeted by mob's violence so bad he required 50 stitches. Other issues included arrests, trials, and bail for those who were arrested. The US Freedom Rides inspired an Australian freedom ride to be conducted in 1965. The aim of this was to raise awareness for the conditions Indigenous Australians lived in, mainly highlighting the segregation and the discrimination against our Indigenous Australians. These freedom rides highlighted the levels of racism within Australia at the time. Despite facing some violence, including the bus being hit by a car, there was a great deal of success, including the events at Moree, where Indigenous Australians were allowed back in the pools after 40 years of segregation. Charlie Perkins was a central figure to the civil rights movement of Australia and was part of the freedom rides that was a catalyst for this movement. He was also a part of the group that rallied for the yes vote in the 1967 referendum successfully. Both the freedom rides and Charlie Perkins were imperative for the Australian civil rights movement. In 1967, 2 years after the freedom rides, the Australian public overwhelmingly voted in favour to remove any discriminatory clauses within the national constitution. The resounding win in the '67 referendum was only the beginning of the Australian civil rights movement, and it impacted more than just Indigenous Australians. In 1972, after the Whitlam government was elected, the White Australia policy was removed. After the removal of the White Australia policy, there was the implementation of the Racial Discrimination Act in 1975. And although things have improved massively, the Australian civil rights